Okay, our next speaker is Lauren Eden. If you'd like to make your way up here. Lauren is a wife, a mom to 3 busy boys, and a second trimester abortion survivor. Over the past 18 years, Lauren has served on 3 church staffs in Atlanta and the Georgia area and has become passionate about the church's role in coming alongside of women who find themselves in unplanned pregnancy. She considers herself a champion for life and for the next generation.
I've always loved a good story. As a child, I remember late nights under the covers with my book light, staying up far past my bedtime just to finish a chapter or to get to the end of a really good book. One of my middle school favorites was the Choose Your Own Adventure book series. If you've read those books, you know that the reader gets to determine how the story is going to end. Wouldn't it be nice if that's how it worked in real life? There have been a few times during my 40 years on this earth that I've wished I could jump ahead and see how the story was going to play out. One of those times was during college when I worked as a television news intern. I spent that summer with Atlanta reporter Doug Evans. One day, Doug asked me about my goals, if I wanted to have a family. He told me that if I did, I should, quote, get out of this business while I had the chance. That didn't really align with my plans. But the more I thought and prayed about it, the more I knew God was nudging me in a different direction. I graduated with my broadcast news degree, but I decided to move back in with my parents while I looked for a different type of job. On June 20th of 2004, I was unpacking after a trip when my mom knocked on my bedroom door. She had a really strange expression on her face, one that I couldn't quite read. And as she looked at me, her big green eyes filled with tears. I've never meant to keep this from you, she said. You've always known that you were born premature, but what you don't know is about all of the circumstances that led to your birth. You see, I wanted to have an abortion. An abortion? I remember feeling like I was watching a scene from a movie unfold and that it didn't feel real. My mom went on to tell me that when she found out she was pregnant, she was a freshman in college, my dad, a senior. She told my dad that she was pregnant, and for a while, they avoided talking about it. But several weeks into her pregnancy, my mom knew she wanted to have an abortion. My dad, on the other hand, was very adamant that she was making the wrong choice. My mom made an appointment anyway at an abortion clinic. When she arrived at the clinic, they did an ultrasound. Their measurements showed that she was just over 13 weeks pregnant. And that particular clinic only performed abortions up to 12 weeks. I think back to my own 12-week ultrasound when I was pregnant with my first son. My husband and I sat in that tiny ultrasound room as we got our first glimpse of our baby boy on that small black and white screen. We studied his little face, his beating heart, his legs kicking, and each measurement they took. We were in awe of the life that God had created inside of me. We knew this precious baby boy was knit together in my womb and that God had a purpose and a plan for his life. My mom did not have that same experience. She didn't know the Lord. She didn't want to be pregnant, and she was determined not to give up her plans. So she made an appointment at another clinic that performed abortions up to 15 weeks. When she arrived, she found herself in that same familiar ultrasound room, This time, my head circumference measured 15.3 weeks, but it had only been 2 days since the last ultrasound. My mom went back to her dorm at the University of Arkansas and got an appointment at a clinic in Dallas, Texas, that did abortions up to 21 weeks. But when they did that ultrasound, it showed that my mom was just over 21 weeks pregnant. How could this be? It had been less than a week since that last ultrasound. My mom began to feel like someone bigger than her was trying to prevent her from going through with her plan. The clinic staff saw that my mom was distraught and sent her to their sister clinic on the other side of Dallas. They assured her that they would take their ultrasound results at that clinic, and they did. Because she was in her second trimester, she had to have a 2-day abortion procedure. The abortionist inserted a substance called laminaria into my mom's cervix, which they told her would cause her cervix to fully dilate by the next morning. That night, my mom found herself scared, in labor, and in a lot of pain. To her surprise, my dad called at about midnight and asked if he could pray with her. When he was done praying, God moved in my mom's heart, and she told my dad that if he would drive to Dallas and meet her at the clinic at her 8 a.m. appointment, that she was 90% sure she would not go through with the abortion. My dad left his house in North Little Rock, Arkansas at 4 a.m. and drove to Dallas. When he arrived at the clinic, he couldn't find my mom. He was pacing the halls. He was afraid that she was already in a room having the procedure done. But to his relief, the elevator doors opened behind him, and my mom was standing there. She was late for her appointment. She had overslept. My dad hugged my mom, and they went into the clinic to tell the staff she was not going to go through with the rest of the procedure. The abortionist told my mom that her cervix was fully dilated and that her body was ready to give birth. The next day, they drove home, and once again, God was at work in my mom's heart. As they drove, my mom recounted all of the obstacles that she had faced at each clinic. My dad smiled as they drove. He knew God was the one who had been preventing her from going through with the procedure. Every clinic that she went to, my dad was praying that God would intervene. And he did, time and time again. Back in North Little Rock, a young married couple from my dad's home church took my mom in. She had to be on bed rest. Their names were Bill and Jana. Jana spent her days attending to my mom while she was on bed rest, while also taking care of her 2 toddlers. At night, she would stay up late with my mom and dad, talking about her faith, reading the Bible, and praying with them about what they should do. My mom didn't know it then, but Jana's mom had also wanted to abort her. After a few weeks of living with Bill and Jana, my mom woke up in the middle of the night, and she knew something was wrong. She was in labor, and she was only 26 weeks pregnant. It was too soon. When my mom arrived at the hospital, the doctor said that there was a 5% chance that I would survive. And if I did survive, there would be a 95% chance that I would be brain dead or have brain damage. Throughout my mom's labor, my dad and Jana prayed. On July 26, 1982, at 8:26 a.m., I was born, weighing in at 2 pounds 6 ounces. Miraculously, Not only did I survive, but I had no brain damage and very few complications from my premature birth. I was tiny. I had underdeveloped lungs, but I was healthy. However, each of the coming days was a battle for my life. My mom planned to put me up for adoption, but when she saw my tiny body that fit literally in the palm of her hand, she knew she had to keep me. I spent 53 days in the NICU, and shortly after I was released from the hospital, my parents got married. Today, I stand here in front of you. I'm 40 years old, and my parents just celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary on October the 2nd. I have the family now that I dreamed of back when I was a television news intern. I have a wonderful husband, and I have 3 boys. In fact, this past fall, that same baby boy that my husband and I first saw on that tiny ultrasound screen just started middle school. He loves reading too. Many nights we find him under the covers with a book light, reading just like I did. And you know what's really cool? He loves the same Choose Your Own Adventure book series that I did too. I can confidently stand here today and say that God answers prayers. He is a God who still does miracles today. And he writes stories that are far greater than the ones that we can write on our own. I'm certainly living proof of that.